Hello Retro Gaming Lincoln, this is Riley, administrator for the site. Just making a new video here today. This may also go onto YouTube at some point, although the low quality I'll probably get like burned on. So I've been getting a lot of messages regarding not for resales. What they are, how much they cost, how to find one, what's the difference, and hopefully I can clear all that up today. What you're looking at right now is Flash versus Flash. Super cool comic. I figured it'd make a good backdrop for the initial video because I didn't want to give anything away, so you'd have to watch the whole video. Alright, so we'll push that off to the side for now. And what we're going to go ahead and start off with is Nintendo 64 not for resales. I've got a few examples here that I've taken from the top of my collection. And this right here is a Mario Kart 64. As you can see, it clearly says not for resale right next to Mario's face to the right there. If you do know how to read the English language, that shouldn't be too difficult. If you ever spot any kind of not for resale Nintendo 64 game, as long as it's not like a fake, buy it. Especially if it's in your local game store. Because I have actually seen one copy of a not for resale in a game store one time, and I really don't ever look for them, and so that happened. That means that they are out there, and people really don't know what they have, which is good for people that are looking to collect these because they can be very expensive. Mario Kart being a generally, I don't know, $60 to $100 version, maybe lower, maybe higher depending on the day. Not for resales aren't really set in stone. On this particular copy, it does hurt the fact that the back of the label's torn off. There's a reason for that, and we'll get over that later, but this would lower the value, just because people don't want to see anything like this. Next up, we got is Super Mario 64. Fantastic game. It was a launch game, so the Nintendo 64 had to have some sort of demo game ready. There's nothing original about really any of these games that I'm going to be showing you today, so no beta content or anything. Well, I guess there's a little bit on one of the cartridges, but this is pretty much just a standard Super Mario 64 with a not for resale on it. It still makes it more valuable and pretty cool. This copy in particular looks pretty great, although it does not have a back sticker. A little bit of residue, so I think somebody may have cleaned it at some point. I'll do you a quick favor. Probably don't clean not for resales. Alright, so we'll keep going with this. This is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. This is actually a little bit harder to spot, and for that reason alone, and for the reason that people generally will sell a game online and won't be able to find the actual not for resale portion because they're not looking hard enough, versus something like the Mario 64 we just looked at. It stares you right in the face. This one actually does not. It's pretty low there, and kind of worn a little bit. So I probably paid it like $7 for this game, and this is pretty sweet. $7 not for resale always, unless it's a fake one. Oddly enough, there are fake not for resales, but whatever. Back sticker, as you can see, is worn out. It's beat up a little bit, and that's to be understood. So this is something you can actually find on eBay generally pretty easily. If I've been able to find like 5, and I haven't really looked that hard, you should be able to find one like within a couple of months. They do pop up all the time, and it's probably the most commonly misidentified not for resale, debatably. Okay, so next up, we got 1080 snowboarding. It's right above the Nintendo logo, so people don't generally think, oh, that's a not for resale. They just skip it over thinking it's some sort of seal of quality, but that's already there. So it's right there, kind of like on the Star Wars one, it's harder to spot. For a collector, maybe not, but for, somebody that maybe works at a game shop and doesn't know what they have, or, like a local person who just so happened to buy out a copy from like an old store, Because a lot of these games actually weren't supposed to go out for sale, but the manufacturers really didn't bother sending them back because Nintendo at the time really didn't care, which is great because, you know, these are kind of fun to own, and if you can find them, especially on the cheap. Now right here, what we got is wow, that's awful. Some black marker. You could probably clean that off with rubbing alcohol. Good stuff. But I don't usually like touching my cards, so screw you, McCloud. I don't know what's going on with that, or McCullen. Thanks for writing all over the cartridge. Alright, next up we got Excite Bike. This is actually another one in which people overlook the not for resale because I really don't know why, but I've been able to find like 4 of these and been able to snap them up for really cheap. Especially if you can get them newly listed. You know, like when they're just listed, that's like the best time to go after them, especially if there's a buy it now. Or you can always message the seller saying, hey, would you take a buy it now, or buy it now, or an offer? And sometimes they'll say yes, and maybe they'll make you a deal on something. Especially when it comes to Excite Bike, because Excite Bike is a great game, but it's not one that you think, oh, you know, the Nintendo 64 is known for Excite Bike 64. This is a fantastic back sticker. So right here is exactly what you're looking for if you want like a really nice copy. This one in particular is super clean. The lazy employees of wherever this came from didn't even write the store name and store number. So this is like this is a copy that if I was collecting more seriously these things, this would definitely be acceptable. We'll try to fast forward through some more here. Like here's Star Wars Rogue Squadron, another actually kind of harder one to find. I found it a couple times, buy it now, but they're a little bit harder compared to like Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. This is generally what you see on a back sticker, but it's better that it's there than it's not, I figure. And I'm not going to modify the cartridge in any way, obviously. So really, it's the same principle for really any of these kind of games. I mean, Zelda not for resale. Banjo-Kazooie not for resale. That's actually one you can find occasionally pretty cheap because it's a harder one to spot, being it right there. Pokemon Stadium 2. The cost of Pokemon Stadium 2 and the cost of the not for resale are so similar, it kind of boggles the mind a little bit. I think you know, this was late in the N64's life cycle, so it still doesn't explain much, but it's like a $5 to $10 difference, but still super cool to have. So right there, Banjo doesn't have a back sticker, neither does Pokemon Stadium 2, and this used to, but somebody, quote, cleaned it. Alright, next ones we'll go over are, these are going to be games that are not for resales, but really, they're just like the ones you just saw, aside from maybe Excite Bike, which does have some beta content, aren't really anything more than the originals. So here we got is Tetris Attack. Pretty easy to spot. This is a cheaper one. Super Nintendo ones aren't as desired, at least in terms of value overall, as there's some N64 versions of not for resales that are worth so much more money than the original copy. The back sticker on this, it's the same thing that you're going to find on most of this like era of Nintendo. So check that out. That's cool. I'd also like to take into account that there are not for resale N64 games that are not actually labeled like that. Doesn't have that on it, but will have like a back sticker. One of these includes like Super Smash Bros. Donkey Kong 64, the yellow cartridge. That one will just have a back sticker and no front sticker. They of course did make a front sticker one, but it's like $500 plus game, and I kind of hate Donkey Kong. Yeah, so I wouldn't buy it myself. Up to you on that though. Same principle. Ken Griffey's Winning Run is probably the cheapest not for Super Nintendo, not for resale, because it's a sports game, even though Ken Griffey Jr. was a beast. Formerly had a sticker. You can literally see the residue there of where that demo sticker was. Next up, we got Turtles in Time, not for resale, which I bought just to have, because I really like this game. It's one of my favorite games for the Super Nintendo. No back label, but you can clearly see it used to have one. Apparently I didn't show this Mario Party 2, not for resale, but as you can see, it's right below the Nintendo 64 logo. Had a back sticker at one point. And looks like somebody actually wrote the potential store name. Way to go, random employee from the 90s. This is the not for resale I showed in a previous video. That's Zelda DX. So it has no markings on it, but it's got this fun sticker, which means at one point this was a demo game. Whether it was a kiosk or wherever, I'm not 100% sure, but it's still pretty cool to have. So the next round of not for resales we're going to talk about are going to be ones that maybe are not really, they're considered not for resales, but they're not really not for resales. They're just more or less decorations or pack-ins. Take for instance Sonic 2. Right there, that one, you'd think, oh man, that's not for resale, that's worth money, I should buy the copy from the local game store. No, don't do it. Don't buy that. Don't buy this game just for that, because I'm here to tell you from personal experience, it was a pack-in with the Genesis, and the not for resale version is probably easier to find than the regular version, crazy enough. So we'll clear those out. Next one we got is another Sega one. This was also a pack-in, so it's a lot like the Sonic. Might not even be a pack-in, could just be something else I'm not aware of, but it's not worth much. Believe it or not, back in the Nintendo days, they actually did have not for resales, but again, they were not for resales, not on the cartridges themselves, and they didn't include any beta content. They were just pack-ins. Like this Mario Bros. 3, for example, it's included in the challenge set. So anybody that bought a challenge set would potentially get this. Super fun game. That goes without saying. And actually, GameCube games can be not for resales as well. Here we got Mario Mix. Really great game we got here. But this says not for resale on it because it's strictly a pack-in. Because this game came with a mat. This does not make it any more valuable. Don't think you can retire if you have like 5 of these, or 5 of those Sonics for this matter. Others that you'll find will be, for instance, this Mario Kart Wii. Obviously Mario Kart came as a pack-in, so if you look, let's see if I can find it here. Right there, not for resale. GameCube and Wii not for resale collecting hasn't really picked up, so I would avoid this type, or maybe not avoid this type if that's your thing. Last thing I'd like to mention, I didn't go over everything that I wanted to go over, but there are actually demo systems. What I got here is 50% of the Zelda Special Edition Super Nintendo. And by that, I mean, it is literally gold because it's so gross and old and plasticky. But as you can see here, this was a kiosk Super Nintendo. Will not work if separates from display. By the way, bullshit lie, it totally will. Don't fucking believe early Nintendo. On the back, you'll kind of see some extra stuff. Like right there, there's a wire hanging out. Basically, it's more of a, it's a lot different than the Super Nintendo back that you'd see. Although I'm not 100% sure with what this unit is worth. Hopefully, this has been a good example of what is a not for resale, what makes games a not for resale, and why they are expensive. like I said, there's a small group of niche collectors that collect these, and those are the hardcore people. So if you're one of those people, not for resale it up. They're actually a lot of fun to collect, and if you can run into one for cheap, then I'd buy it, because if anything, you could at least sell it to somebody who would need it, if you are like a reseller. But that'll conclude the video. Hopefully this kind of cleared things up. Stefan's not actually filming, so sorry about the quality. Have a good one.